Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Future-Proof Your CRM with Seamless SAP CRM Migration by Accrete Consulting Solution, my SAP partner. My name is Ajay Rana. I'm heading the marketing communication at Accrete. And before we get started, I would like to go over a couple of housekeeping items. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. We will bring them up during the presentation, and we will also have time for questions at the end. In the end, we will open up phone lines as well to ask questions. This webinar is being recorded and will be sent to you following the presentation for your own purpose or to share with others. So first, let's start with our presenters. We have Ashish Saxena. He is Vice President Global Solution Delivery. I will request Ashish to share his role and responsibilities in Accrete and his experience with SAP solutions. Ashish?
Yeah, thanks, Ajay. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Ashish Saxena. I'm responsible for all SAP Salesforce Creatio and other projects at Accrete. My background is like I worked in 25 plus years in delivering ERP and CRM projects on SAP, Salesforce, Creatio, and other platforms. I also have business process expertise in service to cash, maintenance, repairs, customer service, and then supporting processes like supply chain, order to cash as well, and supporting processes like supply chain, finance, parts planning and logistics, etc. Before starting Accrete, I was working with KPMG in Bearing Point for about 10 years. And prior to that, I also have some business experience in repair center, parts logistics, customer service, and sales as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Ashish. We have Paparao Udavale. He is our senior SAP architect, technical architect. So, Paparao?
Hi. Hello, all. Good morning and good afternoon. I'm Paparao Udavale, a senior technical architect. And I have been working in SAP almost more than 25 years. I specialize in SAP CRM ECC integration and building some custom solution in SAP CRM Web UI, middleware ECC, and also in S/4HANA. Currently working on a migration project, from CRM to S4 or ECC to S4. This is my expertise mainly in the technical side. But yeah, so right from the beginning, working in all the modules, anything around ABAP or SAP.
Thank you, Paparao. This is the agenda that we have for today's presentation. We will delve into the various options available for SAP CRM integration, taking the pros and cons of each. And we will also discuss one of the case studies, success stories from our client. So I will ask Ashish to start today's presentation. Ashish?
Yeah, thanks, Ajay. So, we're going to talk about the migration strategies. So all customers who have SAP CRM will have to migrate to something. SAP, has stopped support for SAP CRM on-premise solution, and they would want you to migrate to something. So we have come up with three approaches. One approach is a digital transformation approach, wherein you basically, have SAP CRM and want to migrate to another CX. It could be SAP CX as well, or any third-party CX as well. You want to have latest features. You want to take care of have latest technologies and use the best of breed solution. So that's one option where you do a digital transformation for all CRM processes and features and technology. The second approach is using a hybrid approach. In the hybrid approach, you basically take best of both worlds. So you could say, okay, we'll do, migrate from SAP CX to maybe, CX Marketing Cloud. And you could say, okay, we want to see repairs, complaints and repairs in S4HANA CX, because that makes sense from from the process perspective and the integration perspective. You can re-engineer processes, the CX processes as well. So S4HANA also has new functionality like advanced returns management, which which integrates very well with the repairs process, for example. They also have a service with advanced execution. This is a new functionality which has been added in S4, wherein you can, if you have a long project and a long service execution times, you could use that. It uses basically a mix of SAP S4HANA CX and maintenance functionalities as well. Another thing which you have to consider in mind is SAP CS, which is customer service, is also, they are in a compatibility pack right now. So initially SAP had it for 2025 or 7, and now I think they've moved it ahead. But the long-term goal is to move to S4HANA CX if you decide to use S4HANA. And then the last approach is a brownfield approach, where you want to protect all the investments. You're happy with what the SAP CRM does. You might want to make minor changes. You can basically, migrate all the code, all the data into S4HANA, and then use the same processes there as well. And we'll show you how it can be done a little later on. Papa is going to talk about more in technical details later on. But those are the 3 options we could come up with. Now, which option is right for you? So if you look at the x-axis, there are customers who want a lot of changes, and they're willing to innovate, and they have appetite for change. And the y-axis is customers who have pretty standard processes, or you have custom processes. So on the upper left corner, customers who have custom processes and have lesser appetite for change and pretty much okay with the process in SAP CRM, they can migrate to S4HANA CX. On the bottom right, customers who would like to innovate, want the best of breed, and are willing to go through the change management, they should deploy any CX. Well, when I say any CX, it could be SAP CX, could be Salesforce, it could be Creatio, or any other platform which you guys choose. The other 2 boxes are basically customers with low appetite for change and have standard processes. They should look at S4HANA CX, what it provides, and if the functionality doesn't exist, then you can look at another CX for fitting the additional functionality. And then customers who have custom processes as well, and are willing to innovate and want to make changes, then they should look at CX features, what is there, and then also look at the S4HANA CX, what all it can provide. So that is, in a nutshell, would be our recommendation. Now, going to digital transformation, which is the first approach we talked about. You will have S4HANA anyways. That's the assumption. Whether you have S4HANA or you have SAP ECC, you will have sales order processing, logistics, billing, fulfillment, etc. in SAP S4. But you could implement pre-sales processes like accounts and contacts, lead management, pipeline management, sales performance management, quota management, sales forecasting, etc. in a Sales Cloud solution, potentially SAP Sales Cloud, Salesforce, or other options as well. And then if you also want to have configurable products, or you want to generate complex proposals which are like 10 pages long, etc., you can implement SAP CPQ or a third-party CPQ as well. So in the case of service digital transformation, again, the backend for contract management, for maintenance, for quoting, billing, logistics, etc. You can use S4HANA, which is where the service operations are. You could use the Service Cloud for customer service, so case management, service ticketing, all customer calls, which could be through chat, could be telephone, could be CTI, email, etc. SLA management, that is for knowledge base articles. If you want to send out a knowledge article for as a customer response to a customer ticket, that you can do in a Service Cloud. And for in the case where the customer wants a technician to be on site, you can send that service call to the field service management solution, where you can do scheduling and dispatching of the technician. The technician can go on site, get customer signatures, and also perform inspection and other activities. And then billing obviously will happen in SAP S/4HANA also. And then you could also do self-service and crowd service as well from the FSM application. So, I mean, if you're looking at additional functionalities as well, you could look at scheduling, FSM apps do a lot of scheduling functionality, which is typically missing in SAP. I'm going to cover that a little later on. So now I'm going to talk about what is S/4HANA CM. So CM stands for Customer Management. So if you go look at the right side slide, you have SAP CRM. So what SAP did was took all the technology, which is Web UI. You had all the Bold, Genil, all technical, architecture, and just copied it into S4 and called it S/4HANA Customer Management. Now, the database layer obviously changed, which was HANA-DB, due to S/4HANA is based on HANA database. And then the user interface, Fiori was overlaid with Web UI. Again, all technical stuff Papa will talk about, but that just gives you a high-level idea of what happened to SAP CRM and why SAP calls it S/4HANA CM. Now, on the left-hand side, if you can see, not all functionality was brought over into S/4HANA CM. So if you look at the S/4HANA box blue, it has a lot more functionality which was not brought over. Like, for example, marketing, it's not in S/4HANA CM. Web channel, which is the e-commerce engine, that is not in S/4HANA CM. And then S/4HANA already had some functionality which was added on, like there was I mentioned ARM, Advanced Returns Management. There was additional functionality around advanced service execution. So those kind of functionality were added. And then there were industry solutions which were like subscription management or utilities or case management for public sector, etc. Those were also brought over as well. So what I'm calling S/4HANA CM is what was brought over from SAP CRM. What I'm calling S/4HANA CX is CM plus what was there in what S/4HANA brings in as well, the additional functionality which is there. Also, SAP CS, which is part of S/4HANA, is potentially the long-term expectation or direction of SAP is to migrate that to S/4HANA CX as well. So in S/4HANA CM, the processes or objects which were brought over were leads, opportunities, accounts, and contacts, and activity management as well. So you have got all of them, but what was not brought over was territory management, pipeline management, pipeline performance management. Those things were not brought over. So if you have simple processes, you can definitely leverage S/4HANA CM. But if you have more advanced processes, you want to use territory management and performance management and additional latest features, yeah, then you might have to look at other CX. The benefit of using S/4HANA CM, while it's single unified database. Oh, the biggest benefit is no middleware, right? And that was the biggest complaints for pretty much every SAP CRM customer. So it's one unified system, one unified master data and transaction data, a single user interface, which is all Fiori based, So whether you use S4HANA for finance or S4HANA for CM, you're going to use a Fiori user interface. No additional licensing. The other benefit is you have end-to-end sales, lead to sales process in one system from a reporting standpoint, tracking conversion ratios, etc. is the advantage. So these advantages are also available in field service as well. So since it's a single system, no middleware is required here as well. So field service process is also very similar to what it was in SAP CRM. So you have the interaction center, so that functionality is there. You can have call center functionality in S4HANA CX. You have ERMS and service request and service ticketing, etc. Interaction record, all the full-fledged functionality is there in S4HANA CX. So customer can call in, you can create a service request in case they have a product which is out of warranty. You can create a service code, which will then create a service order once the customer accepts it. And on release of the service order, you could also send an advanced shipment to the customer if they want the parts to be shipped out, or if you can have parts, create a material reservation for the parts to be given to the technician from the warehouse, or if the parts are not in stock, you can trigger a purchase rec, which will get converted to a purchase order as well. You can also do third-party service if you wanted to do that as well. That can also be triggered. And as the original functionality was in S4 in SAP CRM, internal order was the cost collector, so all the costs and revenues would flow to the internal order. In S4HANA, there is another functionality. You can either use the internal order or you can use item-based accounting. That's a new feature which has been added in S4HANA. Item-based accounting is typically used for advanced service execution or advanced repair execution, those functionalities which are new in S4HANA as well. So things like, no, can you go back? Things like, intercompany service order is also a new functionality which has been added. A new warranty claims process in S4HANA for suppliers and customers has been added as well in S4. And then things like prediction of parts based on AI technology or service duration is also added in S4HANA. So anyway, continuing this process, once the technician goes on site, you can assign a technician, and once they go on site, they report back labor and parts, which will trigger CATS posting and goods movement, which will capture the cost to the internal order. And once they finish the confirmation, come back, it can be released. The confirmation can be released for billing, which will generate a billing request, and you invoice in SD. So note, there is no CRM billing, which was there in CRM. You will have to use invoicing from SD part of it. So going on to the repair order scenario, this also is quite similar to what was there, but there are definitely some changes here. It definitely obviously has no middleware, like I mentioned earlier, Fiori-based user interfaces. And what SAP has done is developed multiple Fiori applications. So you could have Fiori application by role, but it's more Fiori application driven versus transaction code driven. So although you can search for transaction codes as well. So in this case, the return order, in SD can trigger an activity called in-house repair request. It's another object or another Fiori application. And there you can define some pre-checks. You can say, is it for a quote? Is it supposed to be scrapped? Is it going to be returned to the customer? Or does the customer want a fixed price repair or a T&M repair? And some additional pre-checks which you can build as well. So once the product is brought back into stock, you can perform an inspection and do the pre-checks as I mentioned earlier. And then in case the customer wants to get a quote, you can do a diagnosis. If under warranty, then you can you can do the diagnosis irrespective, and if it's out of warranty also, you can do the diagnosis. If it is out of warranty, then you have to create a quote. which is a separate application, Fiori application. And then once the diagnosis is confirmed and you send the code to the customer can accept it or reject it. And then based on the acceptance, there is a Fiori application for planning of repair order as well. That's a separate application. And then there's a separate application for actually performing the repairs as well. And then once the repair is confirmed, is done, you bill it using SD billing and then ship it out using logistics, SD delivery logistics in SD. Another feature which is there is the use of service teams, which was not there in the CRM. Additional functionalities, again, it's integrated with advanced returns management, the in-house repair process. It has advanced execution, which also uses a mix of maintenance orders and for planning and execution. So there is functionality in SAP for resource scheduling, which is primarily for maintenance orders and production orders. So what SAP is trying to do is you can use the resource scheduling functionality in S4HANA for maintenance orders, which is what this advanced maintenance order functionality does. Next slide, please. So what SAP also, this is the objects which are there. So since they brought over the code, they took some objects from SAP CRM and some objects from S4HANA. So business partners was there in SAP CRM always. S4HANA also has business partners. So if you were to use SAP CRM and migrate to S4, which is a pretty common way of doing it, you have to use something called customer vendor integration, CVI, by which business partners in SAP CRM and S4HANA needs to be kept in sync. That is where a bulk of the work goes because a lot of errors occur during CVI approach. So that's something which has to be taken care of. SAP for the organization model, SAP CRM has a complex and detailed org structure, which you can use, or you can use a simpler S4HANA org model, which is based on sales and service. It's quite simple compared to the SAP CRM org model. But then things like variant configuration or advanced variant configuration, which is new in S4HANA, parts, materials, equipment, functional locations, maintenance plans for maintenance order will be used from S4HANA. So service plan in SAP CRM is not going to be used. You'll use maintenance plan. And in the things on the CRM side, like interaction centers, quoting, service contract, service order, service confirmation, etc., they have brought in SAP CRM. You'll use the same object of what SAP CRM had. On the sales side of things, all the quote, order, contract, pricing, billing, you'll use S4HANA. I mean, it already existed for SD. You're going to use the same one. Price billing is only going to be S4HANA SD billing. No CRM billing is going to be used. On the CRM side of things, activities, leads, product bundling, opportunities, solution quote, etc., from CRM has been brought over, and that can be leveraged. So it gives you an idea of the, it's a mix of objects from S4HANA, basically the best of breed for both the worlds. Whatever was good in CRM and whatever was good in S4HANA is being used. This gives you a little high-level scope comparison. I mean, if you want more details, you can definitely reach out to us. But in general, the web client UI, is going to remain, and Fiori is going to sit on top of that. Things like category modeler, where you have multi-level categories, rule modeler is going to stay. Things like ERMS, which is an email response management system, knowledge base and knowledge articles, survey functionality, etc., that would remain. But things like IPC, which is really been taken away, and you will use advanced variant configuration and pricing, You may ask, how is this going to be used in the case of SAP CPQ or CX? Well, that's a separate discussion, but and we can head there as well. In terms of analytics and reporting, SAP S4 has a new tool which is called CDS views, CDS, AMDP, and other stuff, which is what is used for analytics. You can use SAP SAC, which basically does real-time calls to SAP S4 HANA to do all the reporting. T-Rex goes away, which was the search engine in SAP CRM. It's replaced with the S4 HANA's enterprise search. And then on the marketing side, there is no marketing, although there is a little bit of marketing in S4, in CX version 2 campaigns and target groups. But if you want full-fledged marketing, you should move to a CX Marketing Cloud. Channel management, which was an industry solution for high-tech and medical device companies, like things like channel data management, ship and debit contracts, price protection, claims, POS, etc. We have built, Accrete has built a solution for channel management, and we can help you migrate the channel management solution from SAP CRM into Accrete's own solution. Industry processes have also been brought over, like subscription management and utilities functionality, which may or may not be interested in. On the sales side of things, activities and opportunities management is brought over, but pipeline management, you should look at CX Cloud. Sales, quotation, contracts, orders is going to be S4HANA SD. CRM billing, as I mentioned, goes away. Rebates existed in CRM as well as ECC. Both are gone. Now it's being replaced by something called S4HANA Condition Contract, which is the functionality which is used for all rebates. Accrete also has a functionality which we have built for incentives, as well. But again, that's a separate discussion. In case of service, as I mentioned earlier, service and in-house repairs definitely have more functionality. SAP CRM or CM, S4HANA CM plus additional functionalities which I mentioned. But things like resource scheduling or dispatching, you should look at an FSM application. Complaints, which was there, some customers had complaints and repairs. Complaints is no longer there, has not been brought over. It's been replaced with service request, and service plan has been replaced with maintenance plan. And again, web channel, as we talked about, some customers had web channel implemented e-commerce. For e-commerce, you'll have to implement a third-party solution, either SAP Commerce Cloud or any other Commerce Cloud solution as well. Next slide, please. So I would hand it over to Paparov to talk about all the technical mumbo jumbo he talks about. Go ahead, Paparov.
Yeah. So, SAP S/4HANA. So what SAP did was they brought the architecture, the technical architecture what we have in CRM, which is basically the web UI architecture. It's called, you can call it as a ball or general architecture, So they continued that architecture and they brought it to S/4HANA. And also there is a one out of framework in the sense, when you create a transaction, right, it goes to all the main tables and all that, right, admin H, admin I table and all that. So they kept the same framework, so that way, most of the objects, whatever you have within the CRM, they will continue to work on that, so so that means that's a good news, definitely, because there was some confusion, like probably 10 years back, that the web UI, what is the future of the web UI, but they recognize that this is a good architecture, so that's why they brought that into S/4HANA. That means it means a lot for us, because all the web UI enhancement, all the changes, whatever we've done it in CRM, right, they will continue to work in S/4HANA. So that's a good news for us. Yeah. So next slide, please. So the web UI, so what they did was they introduced a new themes, looks like Fiori themes. So if you see that right, there is a difference between the existing web UI versus a new web UI. So the new web UI, it looks like native web application, and it's much cleaner and all that. So it's a flat screen, and you can see that if you launch the web UI in Fiori Launchpad in S/4HANA, unless somebody tells you otherwise, you don't even feel the difference between the native Fiori application versus web UI. So next slide, please. So here, right, in the existing web UI in CRM, right? So you pretty much you have all the information available, but it takes more time to find out, where the information is available, right? Um, but the main issue is that, how quickly you can find out the information what you needed, right? So that's one of the complaint, SAP keep on receiving from the customer. So what they did was they, using the style sheets, they simplified the screen, they removed the, a lot of empty spaces and all that, and they introduced the new footer bar and consistent header bar, and then they also introduced the tab layout. That means, instead of scroll down and up and all that, right, you can on the top you can see that all the tabs for each and every data assignment block. So that way you can easily get into that the place where you wanted to go. So as I said, right, unless somebody tells you that otherwise, this application looks like a native Fiori application, and but again, it's running using the existing BOL or Genil architecture. That means whatever the enhancement you have in CRM, when you bring it to S/4HANA, it will work. So next slide, please.
So I'll take care of this. So what we could help you is, we could do a assessment for a migration. It roughly takes about 2 to 4 weeks. We basically, review our existing as-is processes. All of it is done remotely, functional, technical, and integration. And we have a tool which we have built, which is a migration assessment tool. Papa was going to talk about that. But what it does, it gives you all what's the volume of database, what's the volume of data by object, by transaction type, and what are the enhancements which are there. For CRM, it'll give you that. And some of the key deliverables would be in this case is what would be some of the recommendations for migrations for each of the objects, what would be high-level timeline, cost, and a roadmap, and also high-level architecture for it as well. Now, we could also do an assessment for you to migrate from SAP CRM to a digital transformation approach. We can go to any CX, or you can do a hybrid as well. So we can probably do it all three of them. The one for CX maybe hybrid or CX may take a little longer, but roughly it shouldn't go beyond 6 weeks, 2 to 8 weeks is the max, I would say, for any of the assessment. Next slide, please. So this is just a sample, deliverable where it says, okay, business roles and web UI are going to remain in SAP CRM. It was there. It'll go into S/4HANA as is. It won't change. Things like PFCG security roles is going to same. It'll contain a list of all the objects, what was there in SAP CRM and what will happen to it in S/4HANA. So, for example, a big one is email integration. SAP CRM had groupware. Well, this functionality doesn't exist in S4. So what do? Right? You basically either have a third-party software or custom build it, but S4HANA doesn't support it. So we'll give you the full detail in Excel with all the features and functionalities which you will get in the migration, and the ones which we can leverage from S4HANA, and the ones which you will not get.
Yeah, I can take about this slide. So at the Create Solutions, we build a tool to basically assess the system, all the customer enhancements, starting from data dictionary objects, all the baddies, classical baddies, as well as object-oriented baddies, um, custom program, function modules, RFCs, all the web AI roles, the PPF actions, CDS views, if you have built in a CDS views, and also AET extensions and all the callback events. I'm sure that you might have something during the save time or during the data entry and all that, right? So the tool is going to give you that, list of all the, all these objects for each category. So I call it as the custom object analysis. And then we also have another tool called a data analysis tool. So it gives you that, the number of transactions, by period wise, whether year or quarterly, and also by transaction type. And also that, sometimes some customers, right, they ask you for, based on the status, for example, okay, let's find out all the open transaction we have, or the closed transaction, last 6 months or something like that. This is really useful for the data migration. So I call it the data analysis tool. And then we also find out, are we using the survey templates, and if they are, how many are being used and how many of them are related to each and every transaction type. Then we also have, attachments as well. The tool gives you that list of all the attachments, attached to the, several transaction type. This is going to be again useful when you try to migrate the attachments. That gives us, is it going to be in S4HANA, or is it going to be in another third-party system like a Microsoft Azure, or maybe somewhere else you want to keep this attachment. And so that's why, it gives you that, the summary of the attachment for each transaction type. So all this analysis output is given in the form of the Excel sheet. Next slide, please. So the approach, right, pretty much is a lift and shift, right? So we use some of the SAP tools, to bring the configuration from CRM to S/4HANA, and including some of the enhancement as well. So kind of like, we take a hybrid approach. Some of them are automated, some of them are manual. So pretty much, take everything what you have in CRM and keep it in S/4HANA. And then, of course, we do the little bit code remediation as well to use the SAP S/4HANA object like a CDS views and all that. Next slide, please. So the migration project phases, right? Yeah. So we'll be, like any other project. Yeah, we have blueprinting and then functional and technical design, and the basic configuration. We're going to do that, and then the development, where we extract the data from the, CRM, and we also have a load programs as well, to, you know, um, creating all these transactions in S4, and then web UI enhancement, which is pretty much, on the UI layer. And if you have any UI5 apps, which is running based on the CRM platform, then we will see that, the OData services we migrate to S4, so that, the apps still continue to work on that. And yeah, so the data migration system, integrated system testing, and UAT, and the hypercare, these are the, the phases of the migration project. Next slide, please. So at Acri, right, we build the tools, to extract the data from various tables, and for various transaction or various object category. So if you take any CRM transaction, right, you have basic data partners, date set items, attachment, long text surveys, and also the multi-level categories. all the document flows are any AET tables or G tables attached to this transaction. So these tools, right, is going to extract the data, and then it's going to keep that, in the staging tables. And then we have a load programs, which is reading this data and create these transactions in S4 using standard SAP APIs. We don't do the direct table update. We always, use the SAP APIs, to create these transactions. Next slide, please. So this is our, a general template, what we are using it, if there are standard SAP fields, they do have a placeholder in CRM in S4, but sometimes, right, you may have some custom fields, and in that case, right, either we had to create an equivalent field, or maybe SAP has given that, equivalent standard SAP field, and, where we don't need the G object anymore. So we will be, doing this mapping analysis during our technical design. Yeah. And also that, when we bring the data, right, sometimes, right, some of the, I would say customizing values could be different. So here in CRM, you call it as ABC, but whereas in S4, you may want to call it as XYZ. So we do the data transformation, and then we also do some cleanup if required. But again, I hope, since this is all historical data, so there will not be any much cleanup. And yeah, and then, using these programs, we load the master data, so, and then transactional data. When it comes to the master data, so pretty much all the customers and all that, right, they're all residing in S4, so you don't need to create them. But you might have some contact persons which are not getting stored in S4, but we would like to bring them into S4. Or maybe you may have some prospects, which is not yet available in S4. So those kind of master data object, we'd like to bring it. Next slide, please. Yes. So I will talk about customer story. In one of our the migration project. So they have a heavily customized system, a lot of G objects and so many write-ups, so many G tables, a lot of AET enhancements, and sometimes, they do the direct database queries, they have some third-party application where they're directly connected to the database layer and get the data, what they're looking for it. And yeah, a lot of, the data services, they build it to run this mobile application like that. So this is the kind of system, what we migrated. Next slide, please. So this is typical data volume what we have. So using our data analysis tool, right, it gives you that number of transactions for each and every object category, and for each transaction type. It gives you that your activities, task, leads, opportunities, service requests, compliance, sales orders, attachment, service contract cases, and all that. It gives you that very high level, how much data you're really talking about to migrate. Next slide, please. So the system analysis tool, right? It gives you that, okay, how many web UI roles, other than the standard roles. Of course, we are not going to use the standard roles anyhow. They always make a copy of the G1, and then they will keep adding the new the web applications, the web UI component. So you can see that how many web UI roles, how many assignment blocks they have, custom assignment block, transaction type, classical bodies, the function modules, tables, structures, views, data element, domain, search help, and PPF actions, including message classes and what data services. Pretty much it gives you that list of all the details. Not only give you the count, but it also give you that, the actual object also, along with the, the object last change date, because you may have some programs which is written maybe 10 years back. We don't know that when the program is being used or not, but it will be helpful if we know that, when the program got changed, that way, if we know that, oh, this program has been changed, let's say like in 1 year back, and we know that we don't know that how this program is being used, but however, it has got some change, that means this program somehow it is being used. So therefore, so we will give you the details of the, like, how this object has been touched and all that. Yeah, next slide, please. So yeah, these are the, it gives you that number of attachment for each object category. And this is helpful for us, that what attachments you would like to bring it, and then where do you want to store these objects, um, sometimes, you may have some object which is important for the service, but not really important for the opportunity. For example, you may not want to bring those attachments, but any attachment which is related to service requests, you may want to bring it. It just gives you that, okay, how much volume we're really talking about, to migrate this attachment. Next slide, please.
So just to add to this one, go back to the previous one. Uh, Attachments in SAP CRM were stored in a content server, whereas attachments in S4, you will have to create something called a document info record, which is very similar to what you have in ECC, and then attach the attachments to that document info record, and then the URL which is there for the document info record will be linked to the object.
Yeah, so you can create a, storage category. So in this pro, right, yeah, the storage category linked to the, the backend server, whether it could be your S/4HANA, or it could be, any other third-party system. But yeah, pretty flexible, So when you click on attachment, then it knows that, okay, what is the storage category it belongs to, and then based on the storage categories, go and find out the target system to pull the content of the attachment. Yeah. Next slide, please. So the lessons learned and recommendations. Yeah, so we do need some historical data, because some of the document flow or references, right? If the transaction is, if the downstream transactions are still open, obviously we still need to bring it. Or sometimes for legal purpose also, we would like to bring, let's say, last 5 years of data, we would like to bring it, right? That's something like, and again, based on the object category, we'll be making the decision. And we don't migrate the change history, and also user status history. We did not bring it, and also the workflow history, who approved the transaction and all those details, we don't bring it. Um, the report, whatever the reports we brought, right, we adjusted those reports or queries, to use the the new HANA object, like, if, for example, there is a CDS view, SAP has given that, we try to use that, or maybe we build that, CDS view by joining different tables and all that, and basically pushing the business logic to the database layer, and you get the data what you wanted. So that way it will be much faster than using a traditional ABAP and querying all the tables and joining in the ABAP layer. Instead of that, right, we use the CDS or AMDP, depending upon the report, on depending upon the tables where you are getting the data. And uh, they have a SAP Sales Cloud, so where, you can build the additional reports or ad hoc queries and all that. I would say the phased approach, if possible, instead of like a big bang, we try to do that phased approach. That would be much faster and less risk also. Um, yeah, and leverage a new S4, SAP S/4HANA functionality wherever it is possible. Let's say if there is any custom functionality, you build that, and then if there is an equivalent SAP S/4HANA, a standard functionality available, or maybe a little bit tweak that, standard functionality, and try to use that rather than using the whole custom application. Yeah, so we make sure that, when we migrate these transactions, they still keep the, the document, the document flow, so that, integrity of the transaction still stays the same. So the customer benefits, with this brownfield approach, right? Yeah, it is a lean and fast transition to SAP S/4HANA, and we retain the majority of the existing configuration, the data in S/4HANA, and so we remediate the code, wherever it is possible, and after the go live, so we do some business process transition, or maybe write the new queries and all that. So we always try to do as it is wherever it is possible, without impacting the business process as it is. If any changes required, unless the management agrees it, otherwise we don't make any changes to the process. It's always forced to go live transition. Yeah, so improved performance, as I told you, right? Because of the CDS queries and all that side. Obviously there is a huge performance they can get. And middleware, of course, as Ashish said, that middleware is a big pain component, so we got rid of it. I mean, SAP got rid of it, and CDS views, and also that no Trex component, no IPC, no VMC, and all that, right? So no Java components, so therefore it will be much faster. And then SAP Sales Cloud Analytics tool, where you can get the quick reporting. It directly connect to the SAP HANA database and then get the reports what you need it. So that's pretty much from my side.
Thank you, Paparao. And before we take questions, let me mention that you will receive the presentation and the recording of this webinar after the presentation. You can also reach out to us on the email ID that we have mentioned, sales@asiansol.com. And now let's start with questions. And if you have any questions later on, you can reach out to us as well. So let me pull up the questions. Okay, so we have a couple of questions. One is for in-house repair parts planning confirmation, the object to be used in S/4HANA is a service order or service confirmation?
Yeah, it is going to be a service confirmation or repair confirmation. But yeah, it is going to be the service confirmation, yes.
Okay. We have a second question. Is the S/4HANA Customer Management add-on compatible with all three editions, on-premise, public cloud, and private cloud?
No, it is going to, S4HANA is inbuilt in, S4HANA CM is inbuilt in S4HANA on-prem and private cloud. It doesn't work with public cloud.
Okay. Can we use S4 service, simple field service process without S4 FSM?
Yes, you can. You don't. So the key benefit of FSM is you can do resource scheduling and dispatching, which you can do manually or build some logic in SAP S4. Do that. Yes, you can do it. I mean, it's just more robust if you do it FSM. But again, FSM is extra license and extra cost and extra implementation cost as well.
Right. So these were the questions we had today from our attendees. If you have any further questions, as I mentioned, you can reach out to us. So we can now close this webinar for today. Thank you, Ashish and Paparao, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. You will receive a follow-up email with the link to view recording and presentation. On behalf of Athlete and on our presenter, thank you for joining us today and have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.